Hello there, YouTube. It is time for the ultimate DPS tier list. We're going to be looking at what's fun, but also what dishes out the damage, because it doesn't matter how fun it is if you're at the tank level of your DPS, and how this all ties up in this wonderful season 2 of the War Within. We're going to kick it off with Frost Death Knight, which I have played a little bit, and after the recent buffs to Deathbringer, it seems like Frost Death Knight actually has a competitiveness in its builds when it comes to Bringer, but also Rider of the Apocalypse, which is great, at least in my opinion, because that just means I get to play more of Frost DK with different talents, different hero talents in that case, because you can also play Breath of Sindragosa if you really wanted to. Now, in terms of performance, Frost DK is doing slightly better than before, and it has some real potential that I think people are just not exploring enough. So where does it land in this whole tier? Well, in terms of performance, maybe it's around B tier-ish, I want to say. And in terms of fun, it's around A tier-ish, but that was just before the buffs, since the buffs kind of hit like 2 days ago, and I haven't actually had time to play after the buffs to kind of, you know, compare Deathbringer with Rider of the Apocalypse and M+. I would put it overall into A tier. Don't sleep on your Frost Death Knights, everybody, because they're really, really good. Almost as good as our Patreons who are supporting our content that we want to give a shout out to, because I don't think they get enough recognition. It's a challenge sometimes to make everything work at a YouTube channel, or at least for us at Marcelian&Flame, and with the help of the Patreons, it's actually so much better. Plus, they get some really cool perks along the way, like early access videos, bloopers and stuff, and of course, glorious custom 4K wallpapers with their characters on. And if you like our content and you want to be a part of the team and get some cool goodies along the way, the link to our Patreon page is down in the description, or simply head out to patreon.com/Marcelian&Flame and see if there's anything there that piques your interest. Thank you, Patreons. Let's kick it off with Unholy Death Knight. Obviously, to nobody's shock or surprise, Unholy Death Knight is an S-tier DPS spec. Even though it has been recently nerfed, I don't think that would knock it off of the S-tier yet, in a couple of weeks. But until then, let's talk a little bit about Unholy. So in terms of performance, I'm going to first put it in terms of performance in S-tier, but I'm going to tell you why it might not end up being there by the end. It's boring. It's not a secret, bro. Listen, Sand Lane is goddamn boring, dude. Hitting Vampiric Strike like 15 times in a row just to fish for a proc of Blood Beast is atrocious. Rider of the Apocalypse is much more fun experience, but listen, with that being said, if you manage to bridge the gap between Rider of the Apocalypse and Sand Lane, and you still have an option to play both, that would be a much better world that Unholy can live in, because Sand Lane wouldn't necessarily be a problem if it wasn't the only way to play Unholy DK and actually do really good in big dungeons and so on and so forth. It is fun, don't get me wrong, it is fun to get that big fat Blood Beast, have it explode and kill everything. That's really cool. But also, I kind of want to interact with my resources a little bit more. I want some more interesting builds, so I can play with a lot of undead minions. I can play with no undead minions if I want to. I can just do bursting swords, a wound spread bonanza, but that doesn't happen either. So because of that, I'm gonna knock it down to A tier, behind Frost Death Knight, because you know what this means. If it's behind Frost Death Knight, somebody in the comment section is gonna be there. Oh my god, I can't believe they ranked Unholy behind Frost. Are these guys even playing the video game? Just you watching. If you don't believe me, wait 30 minutes after we release this video and read the comment section down below. It's a treat, I'm telling you. Moving to Havoc, this has taken a dip to me in terms of overall fun, moving from the PTR. On the PTR, when I tested this and considered it as a main, it had so many build potential. I think they're trying to bridge the gap between Felskar and Eldrazi, and there have been some Felskar resurgence in the last couple of days. I'm not convinced yet. I think people are just scoping, people are just bored of Eldrazi, and I think the majority of the Havoc Demon Hunters are opposed to the Eldrazi playstyle, and I don't blame them. Felskar is so much cooler, but I was honestly hoping that there would be more. Okay, you'll see this theme, by the way, in throughout this video, and I will want to say this right now for all of the specs coming, is that variety is fun for me. I know some people just like a quick build that they can just play and not have to worry about it, but if I get to choose, oh, I can play Essence Break, I can play Momentum, I can play Fell Barrage, I can play Immolation, I like all of that stuff is fun for me. In terms of performance, Havoc is not doing too bad. I think it's around A tier-ish performance, but in terms of fun, it dips a little bit, so I'm gonna put it into B tier. Balanced Druid has received big criticism for me for being absolute boring to play. And it still isn't that intriguing to play. Like Elemental Shaman is a little bit more interesting, and even that, I think some casters here definitely need some work in their overall depth and perception. So right now, when it comes to performance, obviously balance is S tier. And when it comes to fun, here's where it gets a little bit weird. There are builds where you can play both Elune and Keeper of the Grove, depending on your key level. They're moderately close to each other, and Elune has been kind of nerfed a little bit to breach that gap. So I would imagine that you might end up in a world by the end of the season where you can play both hero talents, and that would actually be great to have a little bit of a spice. Despite balance not having that much build diversity, it has something that a lot of other specs don't have, which is going to keep it in the S tier, by the way, and that is a relaxed playstyle, I want to call it. It's simplistic, it's deterministic, but with so much stuff going on, with a lot of the specs and a lot this season, especially if you push keys higher than what you normally would do, balance is such a relaxing change of pace where I can just deal damage and not have to worry about timing every little window with every little cooldown every time. It's just a godsend. It's kind of like if BM Hunter would be a little bit more interesting and have more cool stuff going for it because it's a druid. Feral Druid would be similar. In terms of performance, it's probably around A tier. And in terms of fun, it's just a smidge below Balanced Druid. I don't know where to put it. I think I want to put it between. I would put it between the two Death Knight specs because it doesn't have that much build diversity, but it doesn't have the boredom of Unholy. And it does decent damage at mid to high keys up until like 13s, 14s, I would imagine Feral is just cranking hard. You might see it drop off the higher in keys you go. It's really fun. It's a Druid spec. It's kind of the melee version of Balanced Druid where it's not that complicated and it just works all the time. It doesn't matter if you have cooldowns or not. You're just going to enjoy the playstyle, the rotation and all of that stuff, which is really, really good. We're moving into Lizard territory, everybody, with Devastation. And this is something that I do have to admit to you as an honest little take. I haven't played Devastation in a while, and this is weird because it actually has the changes that I've always asked for Devastation since beta Dragonflight, and that is that you can play Firestorm and not have it be a dead. Now, overall, in terms of performance, Devastation is doing pretty well. You could put it into either A or B tier. In terms of fun, at least I know that now you can play proper AoE Devastation with a lot of Pyres and a lot of Firestorms, and that's gonna bring it all the way into A tier, as much as I'm not a fan of the whole drag tier concept. I feel like Devastation is getting better and better. I do feel that in terms of its spec design, it could offer a little bit more depth into its talents, but such is the nature of newly released specs. We know that that was the case with Demon Hunter a long time ago, and now it's doing better, and Devastation is probably on a track to do a lot better in the future as well. Beast Mastery Hunter has received buffs to Dark Ranger, and I don't know if Pack Leader. I know a couple of weeks ago we've had a big patch notes. Pack Leader seems to be the way that Beast Mastery plays right now in Mythic Plus, Dark Ranger potentially in raids as well. I am still a little bit disappointed that a lot of the cool fantasy of Beast Mastery is visual and not actually impactful, which is what I was hoping for Pack Leader, to have some kind of interactions with all the beasts that you spawn. They just spawn and buff your damage and do things. I don't know if anything changed in your rotation ever since they introduced this, so I'm gonna put BM in a little bit of a B tier. In terms of performance, it's not that bad. It's really good. It's probably better than Havoc, but maybe I'll put it in FK actually. I was a little bit disappointed in how Pack Leader ended up, and it's still there because it feels like it's just a cosmetic thing. Not to mention that Beast Mastery actually has a build in M+ right now where you actually play with no cooldowns. Well, it's called a no cooldown build, but you're just playing without Call of the Wild, which is just reverting back to old style Beast Mastery that was just boring. So if I want to play a simple spec to just have fun, I'd rather play Balanced Druid. Marksmanship is seeing some big uprising with all of the buffs that it's received right now, where it's the premier hunter spec in terms of overall performance. Now, I don't know if it ranks all the way into S tier because of that, so I'm gonna think about it in terms of A tier level. But what does that mean for fun? Well, first of all, from what I've seen so far, Marksmanship is just playing Sentinel in dungeons, which is good. Sentinel is kind of fun, and most of the fun that revolves around Marksmanship is just in its rework that has very little to do with Sentinel, although I do feel like Sentinel just matches way better, since Dark Ranger, no matter what they do, seems to be the single target option of Marksmanship, although it could have some really awesome potential in AoE. I did try, no I didn't, I actually succeeded in playing the reworked slash revamped slash buffed version of Dark Ranger in dungeons, and it was atrocious to try to cleave Black Arrow while maintaining Trish shots while not capping precise shots, and it just all sorts of wonky. So I don't think Dark Ranger is yet ready for Mythic Plus. And Sentinel is pretty fun as well. I kind of want to leave it into A tier. I will put it in front of the Lizard at the very least. When it comes to my all-time favorite Hunter Spec Survival, it's not as great, it seems. It's actually suffering from performance, so I think overall in terms of damage output, it's probably a little bit low. Probably around like C tier-ish, I would say. Maybe even lower. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know. I know why. It's just not buffed. And in terms of fun, well, Pack Leader is still just as boring, and Sentinel is just pretty much passive, similar to Marksmanship, and it doesn't have that cool rework version of Marksmanship. The changes that it had in the PTR leading up to this season didn't really put the shine on it as much as I want to, so I think I'm just gonna keep it into C tier. Arcane is a wild card, and I have been playing it, and something about Arcane just makes me want to giddy up like a little kid on Christmas morning with all the little procs and shiny things that are just going around. But I don't know if it has the damage yet. I don't know if it can keep up with all of the other specs. In terms of damage, is maybe around B tier-ish, maybe a little bit lower, although we're seeing some noise around Arcane. But in terms of fun, it's close to being S tier, so I'm just probably gonna put it into A tier. I think no matter what, in the War Within, I will be a Mage fan, no matter what they do, because lo and behold, here's Fire. Now, I've criticized Fire for its version of design leading up to Season 2 heavily, because I just didn't feel the vision of the devs for Fire. It was just not for me. And it seems like that just revolves around Frostfire Fire Mage, where the problems that I hear it has are the problems that I encountered myself in the PTR, where it's clunky, it doesn't feel like you're managing your procs right, it feels like either you have to waste them or not care about them, and at which point why even have them in the first place. But Sun Fury is just as fun as always. I'm gonna put it around Arcane. Now, the fun part of Fire is kind of the same fun part that Arcane has, is just being a mage. Very few classes are fun because of the class that they have, and more because of the specs. Mage is an exception to that, and I think that still holds true. Frost Mage has received almost nothing, bro. Because it's a mage, I find it fun inherently, but in terms of its spec, I think Frost just requires a lot of rework. I'm gonna put it behind Havoc Demon Hunter. In terms of damage, it's the second best mage spec. Last time we checked it in our meta tier list, it was ahead of Arcane and I think A tier level DPS performance and keep pushing and stuff like that. But it's just nothing interesting. It's just the same old Frost Mage, and the only really cool part about Frost when you're just out there doing your stuff is the Coldest Snap playstyle, where you go in, fire a freezing orb, a frozen orb, maybe even a blizzard, then Con of Cold, and do it again and again, and then you get these back-to-back resets of frozen orb when you fight really big packs. That happens very rarely, and it's kind of like a niche thing, and outside of that, it's kind of boring. Windwalker Monk, obviously, it's my main this season. It will continuously be my main despite all of the memes going around. It's, my opinion, the best designed melee DPS specs, and with the buffs to Shadow Pan, they're bridging the gap between the two playstyles even more. We also made a video about all of the builds that Windwalker can go into. I feel like there is a downside to it in terms of performance if we're talking about Mythic Plus. In raids, it's obviously one of the best melee specs, if not the best melee spec, period. But in terms of Mythic Plus, it's falling short, and it feels like it has a lot to do with its AoE cap, since the damage just doesn't scale prior. Obviously, in small pools and in 5-pack encounters, Windwalker is probably going to be one of the best DPS specs in the game, so you kind of have that trade-off here and there. You cannot really complain too much, but it just feels bad that no matter how good I do at Windwalker, I will have no chance whatsoever to keep up with some of the specs, and having that wall of, okay, there's nothing you can do about it, that just feels shitty no matter what spec you play. Ret Paladin, oh man, bro, I retain my opinion that Paladin, possibly Priest as well, are the specs with maybe the best to see in the World Within, and probably all it has to do, all that it's tied to is basically all the Void versus the Light theme that we have in these expansions. I think that plays a big part into it, and in terms of that, I would just play Ret all day. But its playstyle is just atrocious, man. So first of all, in terms of performance, it's close to being S tier. But in terms of playstyle, like, it's doing a little bit better. At least Divine Hammer is now playable, but it's just a passive aura activator that doesn't really do anything. I think I just need Herald of the Sun to be better, to have at least some variety, but I feel Red is just nothing. There's nothing going on with Red. You have Final Reckoning, Execution Sentence, and a 45-minute Wings. That's it. No matter what talents you choose, you're always gonna have 2 of these 3 things. And that's just boring. I mean, it's fun for like 5 minutes, but it gets boring in the end. Give me some variety. Give me some cooler capstones. All of the capstones are just passive. Oh, this damage is a little bit better, and that damage turns into this damage, and it's a little bit better. But nothing really impacts your rotation, your cooldown choices. You have like 2. So I don't know. I feel like Red has so much potential to be such a good spec. They're just missing a little bit on that design. Same thing with Shadow Priest. Although Shadow Priest in terms of performance is doing worse than Red, it has a little bit more things going for it when it comes to its spec design, which is why they're kind of equal at the end of the day. I do like the fantasy of Shadow Priest with, you know, the focus on the voids, the old god. I haven't really seen a lot of build diversity in Shadow, and if I'm not mistaken, pretty much all Shadow Priests are playing right now is Void Weaver. Don't really find Archon that interesting. Void Weaver kind of has like the only cool fantasy for Shadow Priest this season. Archon is just probably fun gameplay, and that's about it, which, you know, that's all what this tier list is about as well. But I feel like it's missing a little bit, and that's where it's going. I have played Assassination, and it is actually cool. I've come to really enjoy Deathstalker quite a bit in Assassination, and playing with your Death Mark is kind of a neat little skill expression. Being able to do good AoE damage by dealing single target feels really good as Assassination. Feels like it's definitely the way to go. My only one gripe with Assassination as a former Assassination main is that Kingsbane just feels like a wet noodle right now. Part of what made Assassination cool in Dragonflight and why I mained it was because you can snapshot and work into these really big, awesome Kingsbane moments that now have gone away, where it's a little bit more bland. So its overall damage kind of has been elevated a little bit, but you have fewer spikes, or actually no spikes as a result, and that just takes away any cool moment that you could have gone, oh man, that was so cool, I did that big hit. Like, you don't have those anymore with Assassination, or at least you don't have those where I am playing it at the moment, and I feel like that's just a bit of a shame. I'm gonna put it at the I cannot put it behind the lizard. I'm gonna put it into A tier. It has potential to be S tier. It's so cool. Its damage is not quite S tier, but the fantasy and the playstyle of it is really cool. Outlaw is fun as always. I just don't think the hero talents do anything for it whatsoever. Fatebound could have had some really cool potential if there would have been a little bit more impact into how it affected your builds and your playstyles. I feel like Outlaw is just great, and the hero talents are just there. They just feel like trinkets. Oh, it's cool to have this one little gimmick, but it doesn't really change anything about the spec entirely, and that kind of takes a little bit away from it, at least from what I've played so far. Maybe I'm playing it wrong. Let us know in the comment section down below. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I will put Outlaw around Ret, I feel. They're both fun inherently, but it's missing something to be that extra level, right? They're okay. It's fun. I wanted to put Subtlety as the premier rogue spec, and I don't know where to put it. Right now, in terms of performance, I think it's the worst rogue spec in content, possibly. It's the most fun rogue spec when you have all of your cooldowns. The changes to Symbols of Death, getting all the way to 3 charges, Shadow Dance having like really nice uptime, and the DPS windows are just really cool. Unfortunately, that's about it. That's where Subtlety Rogue stops. Outside of cooldowns, you're doing worse than tanks in damage, possibly. And nothing interesting ever happens. Outside of the Dance Macabre, Shadow Dance, Secret Technique, crit combos that you do in both single target and AoE, there's nothing really going on. If there's one upside for it when it comes to its hero talents is that Trickster gives you access to Nimble Flurry, where you don't have to worry about Black Powder. That was essentially a very brain-dead way to play Subtlety in AoE, where you just spam Black Powder. Very boring. At least now your single target rotation, which is way more interesting, can be played in AoE. That is the upsides of sub, but I don't think Deathstalker is played almost at all, and I don't know how that would play out with Subtlety, and that's probably because, at least in Mythic Plus, Black Powder is still terrible to press and very, very boring. I feel like sub has potential, and a lot of its depth has been taken away with the rework, where Shadow Dust has been taken away. Gormaw's Bite is still meh. You might play Gloomblade occasionally, but I don't know. I'm going to put it a little bit behind Assassination just because it's still a rogue spec that I severely enjoy. Actually, no. I think it deserves to be in front of Ret, at least. No. We knocked it down. We knocked it down. Elemental, holy shit. Can you stop right now and close your eyes and try to picture in your brain the soundtrack of Star Wars as you're the Emperor of the Sith, shooting the lightnings out of your fingers? Oh my god, this is so cool, bro. This is essentially what I always wanted to see. I am a big lightning fan when it comes to my shamans. I wasn't really particularly a fan of the old meatball builds that we had in the past, and although I don't like the lightning bolt animation, the lava burst animation changes and the elemental blasts they just make an elemental shaman feel like an actual elemental shaman. Makes it feel more like a mage than a shaman. But listen, we're not gonna go in there. And the back-to-back lightning builds with the overload procs, with the earthquakes stacking on top of each other, and the ground getting darker and darker and darker as you put in more earthquakes. This is essentially the premier spec of power overwhelming, of oh my god, it's getting over 9,000 and things like that. And that is the fantasy that this is enact. It sucks in single target, and I think that's a good trade-off to have for how much explosive damage you can do in big AoE with like no end in sight. This is how old Destroy Warlock used to feel like, where the bigger you pull, the more damage you have, and you're just scaling until this world breaker level of destruction. I love it. Enhancement has taken a slight dip for me because Elemental is just stealing all the thunder, pun intended, but it's still a really cool spec. I don't know where to put it. I'm going to put it around Mage. It's going to be always a fan favorite of mine. I think Totemic is one of the best playstyles that Enhancement has ever had. In terms of performance, I want to say it's probably S tier. I think it's just outshined by Elemental, which is why you're not seeing it usually in S tier level content. And if I think they've worked on bringing Stormbringer a little bit closer to Totemic as well. If those actually become equal in performance and you can just swap in between them, it might even go all the way to Windwalker levels of amazing for me. Affliction, talked about it a bunch of times in the last couple of weeks. I feel like it's missing a lot in keeping up with the modern specs. It did get a rework, but I feel like it's just missing the mark. It feels like I don't feel like I'm playing World of Warcraft when I'm playing Affliction as much as I like it as a Warlock spec. I feel like the way it's doing its AoE damage profile is atrocious in Mythic Plus, no matter what people say. I know I've seen your comments. Okay, listen, everybody has their opinions. This is mine. This is where I'm putting Affliction. It's actually way better than it should be because based on performance, it's probably around D or C tier. But I still like Warlock, and I still like those awesome Vile Taint, Soul Rot, Dark Glare, Soul Harvester moments where you just go and keep going, although I might just end up playing Hellcaller because I just cannot stand having longer burst windows. Demonology is actually doing really good in terms of performance. It has just recently been buffed, same as Affliction, to be fair, but it has taken a dip in terms of the overall fantasy for me, where it's just a more bland spec, despite them getting a new capstone in its Vile Fiend, where it's now a Char Hound or a Gloom Hound. I feel like that's the only really interesting thing that Demonology is doing nowadays. You don't have those awesome, really cool Tyrant windows anymore. You don't have those awesome, really cool Nether Portal windows windows anymore, and you don't even have those awesome, really cool Doomguard windows anymore, because Doomguard is just bland, all single target. So a lot of the cool stuff that Demonology had the potential to do has been gutted because they couldn't probably find a good way to balance it and make it fun. I enjoyed the past versions of Demonology a lot more, and I know that's a controversial thing. Right now, don't get me wrong, it's solid. It's really good. It's really good. It's better for the game, but it's less fun for me, so I cannot, in good honesty, rank it all the way into A tier. Destruction, the elemental that it wish it could be, that it isn't anymore. To be fair, in terms of design, it feels like it's doing a little bit better than Demonology, so I want to put it in front, but in performance, it's obviously doing a lot less. I don't know what they can do to Destruction for Chaos Bolt to feel like Chaos Bolt and not hit just as much as a, I don't know, Blackout Kick for Brewmaster Monks, bro. Chaos Bolt should be one of the hardest hitting abilities in the game, period. I don't know if they have to make it a 4 shard cost, or they nerf shard generation for Destruction and just massively increase the damage on all of the spenders to make it feel like whenever you're pressing one, it's giga impactful. I don't know if nerfing that would be ideal. I think maybe putting some talents into Chaos Bolt to make it cost double the amount of soul shards, but do quadruple the damage or something like that. That would feel good. When I shoot a Chaos Bolt, I want to see the HP bar move, bro. That's the fantasy of it. And to be fair, we're not really living in a world anymore where you can play the massive Rain of Fire spams of Destruction, since I think mobs just don't sit in one place, and you cannot really make them sit as much as you want to. What are you gonna do? Bro, Arms Warrior has grown on me, man. I don't know. I'm so conflicted because I trashed it so much, and it's so good. I'm having so much fun with Arms Warrior. Big Cleaves is really satisfying. I do feel like it's no. Okay, listen. It lost a lot of its oomph. Some of it feels like a little bit wimpy. The current version of Arms, I don't know. Sweeping Strikes is not interesting whatsoever. I still don't like it. But Big Cleaves is, Big Blade Storms is, Big Mortal Strikes, and Big Executes is. Like in Execute, I would put it into almost S tier if we'd be ranking this purely on Execute version. In AoE, if I never have to play Sweeping Strikes, it would probably be close to S tier, if not top of the A tier. But I feel like they've gutted some of the Avatar capstones, where it's now just more boring. I hope they go back on it, because Arms has so much awesome potential to be a Giga Chad spec. Fury has dipped quite a bit. I think this is one of the specs where performance actually plays a big role into where I'm going to be ranking it for right now. And I've given Fury a lot of feedback over the years, and it has been one of the Warrior specs that still felt like Warrior, but I feel like right now is one of those times where its way of dealing damage and approaching packs feels so limited and gated that I cannot enjoy it. Even if it does really good damage, like in small pools, it can do comparable damage to Windwalker, which is my main, and in big pools suffers from almost the same issues as Windwalker. It doesn't have the build diversity, it doesn't have the spec depth, and even there, it's hard capped. At least Windwalker is soft capped, so you might still end up doing decent damage, but Fury has to be about the damage, man. You're a big berserker wielding two-handed weapons, so you can do more damage, and you're not doing more damage. Bro, you can say a lot about some of the specs where, dude, I just want to look cool while doing shit. Warrior needs to do damage. Fury needs to do damage, and it's not, and I'm sorry. And last but not least, obviously, our augmentation in terms of performance, it's over. Get over it. Go play Mage, bro. It's a much better class. But in terms of what it's supposed to accomplish in its overall design, I kind of feel like it would be around B tier, so I'm going to put it into C tier. Augmentation is suffering bad, but I think the suffering is, I don't want to say deserved, because I don't like it when specs just get neutered and made unplayable, period. But there was no other way, man. For almost 2 years, it's completely cannibalized an entire role in almost every group imaginable, to the point where to balance the scales, you kind of have to throw it out the window right now, which is what we're seeing with augmentation. So I don't know. This is not ideal. I'm not happy with it, but I'd rather have it here than in S tier another season. So this is where my opinion about it all of this ends. And of course, you can let us know in the comment section below what you think is S tier and what shouldn't be S tier. And like I mentioned, the premier spec being Windwalker, being entirely biased off of my opinion. You can watch this video right here where I tell you all of the cool, awesome builds you can play about Windwalker, because if you don't like one thing and you like another thing, there's definitely a build for you.